So your not trip, your passion to become a guide, what inspired you to take that route rather than just like, I'm a climber, this is what I do, I work my day job and I go out and solo and I climb? Like, what about guiding, and why did you want to go down that road to share this passion with others in such a direct way?
I kind of just naturally always liked taking people on hikes, even before I was a climber. Like, I just liked showing people around and like showing people a good time, and just like, yeah, check this out. Let's go crawl through this hole and, like, let's go climbing. Let's have some fun. Um, and then I became a bartender after a ditch digger. I moved up in the world, and I I'd have people, like bartending. People are always asking you questions, having conversations, small talk, and people are just like, "Oh, I've always wanted to climb." I'm like, "Ah, give me $100. I'll take you climbing."
Yeah, it's a
So
great marketing tool for sure.
yeah, yeah. I bartended and guided for a while. I'd guide in the morning, come back and bartend at night. And once I started getting kind of busy with guiding, then it became too much. Like working till 1 in the morning, then getting up at 8 and doing a day of guiding became too much. And then finally started being able to pay the bills with guiding too. Um, and then one of my bar customers, we hit it off, similar age. He had just finished doing guiding a kids camp where they were doing backpacking and climbing. And yeah, we hit it off in the bar. He ended up coming back to my house. I lived just right next to the lodge, basically. He walked on home. And he offered me a job. And so, yeah, I guided for the company he worked for a few summers. Like this one summer, we did a 28-day leadership course. We did 5 days of backpacking, starting on Donner Summit, came out, and then met a friend with a sailboat and sailed around Lake Tahoe for a few days and camped at a campground every night. Then he dropped us off in Emerald Bay, and we hiked from Emerald Bay to the Leap, bagging peaks along the way. And then we got to the Leap and we climbed for like 6 or 7 days. It was just awesome. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I'm like, yeah, I'm getting paid to do this. um, and so then I was bugging the Forest Service about acquiring a permit. It can be hard to get permit scenarios. And
Permit for what exactly? Guiding or?
To be a commercial outfit.
Oh, okay. To be like a business rather than a freelancer that's just kind of like pirate guiding people up routes.
Yeah. Yeah. Like when I was bartending, like give me $100, that was just kind of like under the table 20-year-old, like, yeah, give me $100, but yeah, then, and then I was working for another company, when I worked for my buddy, they had permits. So like, we were fully legit there, but so I was like, yeah, I want to get into this. So I ended up getting a permit in 2003 and starting Lover's Leap Guides. And I was a one-man show pretty much up until 6 or 7 years ago when my life exploded from a divorce. And then all of a sudden, like, it's just like, all right, well, for me to, I had to buy my wife out of the house and walk away from certain things. And it's just like, all right, well, now it's all on me. So that's when I expanded, hired guides, really put a little more effort into marketing and business and websites and it seems to pay it off. Not killing it, but I'm able to climb and pay the bills and live here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say it's it's not an easy thing to do to live a life of climbing. And we each, I think a lot of us try to make it happen in our own ways. And I think, at least from what I'm finding, it's it's a lot harder than I expected. So
Yeah.
it's really cool that you found that niche, and that yeah. And I think it's cool. I think I found that like success is found in like raising everybody up around you, rather than like seeking for just like, I don't know, like just like going after the money, right? Like it depends on what you're looking for. And it seems like you've just done so much for the climbing community, especially in the local area. And yeah, it's really cool that, you know, the community is there to support your lifestyle and to keep you climbing in that area. So I think it's rad, the balance you found.
Yeah. Again, like I said earlier, I feel very fortunate and lucky. And yeah, life is good. Yeah,
That's
life's
awesome.
good right now.
What about, so someone looking to become a guide? I guess, you know, this could be a huge topic in itself. I don't necessarily want to go too far deep into it. My main question here is the delineation between SPI and actually just going for the rock guide course. Do you want to kind of enlighten us a little bit in terms of the differences between the two, and in what circumstances you would recommend one versus the other as a starting point?
Well, I mean, the SPI is definitely a good way to like get a start on it and kind of seeing if you're gonna like it. But for me, like the single pitch guiding is my least favorite type of guiding. I love the multi-pitch guiding. You know, sitting around and checking knots, being a cheerleader and just playing top ropes all day is, I wouldn't be a guide if that was my life, you know. You know, it's SPI is a good like foot in the door. To get started, to make yourself hireable.
Okay. It's not necessary for the process, though.
No, you could. Well, you know, they might have changed it where I think they want you to take the SPI and then start going on through. You know, then you take your rock guide course and advanced rock guide course, and then your exam. But yeah, if you're serious about guiding, you want to be going, you know, the SPI. It's, I mean, in places like Joshua Tree, it's fine. Now, unfortunately, I think the standard's kind of low with the SPI. Like, they only require for you to get your certificate to lead 5-6. I don't know, to be a certified single pitch instructor.
You should probably know enough about climbing where you can, I don't know, I would say 5'9". That's probably like a...
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how, in my opinion, that's kind of how I feel. And like sometimes these folks they want to know ahead of time, like what the 5-6 is they're going to be examined on, because they have to lead one. Like, and they want to go and like practice before they want to like climb it. Like, I don't think you should be practicing 5-6 to become a certified instructor. And I think that just brings down the whole profession, right? If you start dropping the standard, it kind of brings it down. And then who knows, you know, when you start bringing it down, then you get accidents, and then the liability insurance is going to get harder. And then, you know, more regulation from government agencies. I think we need to lift up the standard, not bring it down.
Do you think the standard was dropped to maximize the amount of revenue that the AMGA guide can acquire, or do you think they lowered the standard because they're in need of guides and not enough people are applying?
No, I think there's plenty of guides now. Who knows exactly why that's kind of dropped? I don't know why they have a 5-6 standard. Again, just, you know, I think I could teach someone how to lead 5-6 in a 3-day weekend, right?
Yeah, for sure. If not a single day, if they've got some sort of athletic background, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, have a common sense, and I could teach someone how to play skier pretty good. And but there's more than that. You know, there's risk management. There's you know, It's not just like threading bolt, Um, so I don't know. I mean, AMGA did run into some financial problems a few years ago. So they definitely have, it seems like, I mean, the SPI market is flooded right now with providers. And there's courses and exams running all over the place. So yeah.
What about stewardship? So on like it's like a similar vein, but slightly different, and something I think that more of us can participate in, and we don't need a certification to be a steward of the land. And I would imagine that you are this, I would say, a very large and contributing steward to the Lover's Leap area. And I think stewardship is it's quite a cornerstone in climbing, and it's something that really is really necessary. How do you feel like stewardship is looked at nowadays? Do you feel like it's a dying art? Do you feel like people are mostly just come and go? Thanks for the pitches. Thanks for Mountain Project. Thanks for these first ascents that are established. We're out. Or do you feel like it's something we can all participate in a bit more than we are currently? Let's be real for a second. The current blueprint for a successful climbing podcast is simple. Interview the best climbers in the world. Big names mean big followings. Lots of SEO power and a built-in audience that helps boost every episode. But this show has never been about that. From the beginning, I have made it my mission to bring you stories from the climbing majority. The climbers who don't live in the limelight. The ones who avoid interviews, quietly put up routes, and give back in ways that are rarely recognized. And while that's what makes this show special, it also means we have an uphill battle when it comes to growth. And that is where you come in. If you're psyched about the show, if you've been inspired, entertained, or fired up about an episode, word of mouth is the single most important way you can help the show. Share an episode with a friend. Play one on a group road trip. Post about the show on social media. Jump onto Reddit threads and Mountain Project forums and share with people what you've been listening to. Be sure to tag the show, tag your favorite guests, and spread the word. And if you want to help even more, I'm currently sending posters to climbing gyms around the country. If you'd like to sport one in your climbing gym, be sure to reach out. Email me at theclimbingmajoritypodcast@gmail.com, and I will be sure to send you one. Let's band together and show the climbing community that the climbing majority has a voice.
Well, like you said, stewardship's huge in my life. I put a lot of time into the leap. I was actually, about this time last night, I was up on Corrugation Corner because we got a report of some loose blocks. So I went and took care of them.
Yeah, I saw the Instagram video.
Yeah. And then I had to go back up there this morning because I had to grab my rope and gear because I was like, it's kind of dark. I don't think I want to down solo. But so yeah, stewardship's huge. As a community, for people who don't have the time to put into it, because a weekend warrior who's got a big job, do they want to come on up and move rocks and crush their fingers? A big thing though is donating to the Access Fund and to the smaller local groups. Like we have NorCal Crags, and they raise money and then they bring out the access funds come out here quite a bit every summer. A couple of years ago, they were here for 6 weeks. And NorCal Crags pays them to have a crew here, like their conservation crew. And they do amazing work. Like the work they've done around the lower buttress is so good. But it costs money. So if you can't be out there volunteering, like Access Fund's going to be here for like 2.5 weeks this summer. We're always looking, we have big volunteer days on a weekend day, but then they have their crew out here midweek working all week. And so volunteers will help them out on a smaller basis. But like donating money, if you can't actually put the time in, or even if you can put the time in, donating money to the Access Fund and the smaller affiliates is huge, because the amount of climbers that are out there and the amount of money that is raised, it doesn't match up. So, and that goes with like bolt replacement with ASCA, and it's just like your dollars do count if you, especially if you can't put the time in.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the bolting and replacing hardware, at least to me, it seems like an issue that's kind of like about to become really dangerous. I feel like there's a lot of these areas that maybe lack stewardship in general. And I think there might have been like correct me if I'm wrong here, but there might have been like this wave of first ascents that, happened at a certain decade, whether that be 10, 20 years ago. And now, we're getting to the point where these bolts are starting to become kind of dangerous, and maybe we don't have people that are out there to replace them. Like, is that an actual problem that we're kind of running into? Is that like something that's down the pipeline that we're going to run into, or do we have enough stewardship, and are there people that are all kind of like monitoring these routes?
I think that is kind of area specific. Like Klimnos out in Greece, they just got a coalition together to start rebolting that place, and that's really close to the ocean. I've helped Heidi, my partner, run a couple of guided trips over there, and like the bolts there are getting bad because of the salt air. Like Humboldt, the bolts we put up in Humboldt, like we were poor college students. We didn't right on the ocean. We were putting in a lot of steel bolts instead of stainless, and even stainless rusts up there. So they've moved into titanium. People like Evan Wishershop up there put a lot of time into re-equipping that place. So certain areas, people are really on top of it. Here at the Leap, there's not a lot of bolts here for such a big area, but replacement is starting to happen on some of the routes, because there are some routes that had button heads and 1/4-inch bolts. Like a lot of the development was in the 80s, and they were using 1 1/4-inch bolts. So a lot of those, at least on the popular routes, have been replaced. And it seems like in Red Rocks, I've noticed, there's a lot of stuff getting fixed up.
A lot of stuff getting fixed up for sure. And thank God, because I remember like looking at some of these routes, like it seemed to someone like me is just unclimbable. It's just like, there's no way I'm putting myself out there like that. But I'm running into a situation where the next piece is like, might not even hold me. What about development? Do you establish bolts or bolted lines or new anchors? Like, is that something that you do?
Yeah.
How has the new update with the bolting ban in wilderness areas and the permit systems, like how has that affected your process, and has that kind of like touched the Lover's Leap area yet?
No, because we're not in a wilderness.
Okay. What's the land? What is it owned by?
I mean, it's owned by it's federal land, but it's Forest Service. So,
okay.
Power drills are fine and bolting is fine. What's kind of rad here at the Leap is like 95% of all the routes have been put up ground up. It's kind of still a ground up traditional area, which is pretty rad. And what makes the Leap kind of special is it's so doable with the dikes. You can always like throw a hook on a dike, and you can read the dikes from the ground. It's like, oh yeah, it looks like it will link up. So yeah, it's super fun. Like 100% of my routes here have all been ground up on site on lead. Which is pretty cool.
Ground up on site on lead?
Yeah.
So you didn't take on a hook or anything, like all on site?
No. Oh, no, I hang on the hook.
Okay. I was like, hanging on a crimp with the drill, like never taking.
No, that would be impressive, right? No, just like not pre-rehearsing, dropping the rope, just walking up to the cliff going, all right, let's see what happens. And I've only been shut down a couple of times where it didn't go. I've always, so, there's still some cracks left. They're super, super dirty. You know, that living here so long, you know, I've walked by sections of cliff and all of a sudden I catch a certain light and it's like, oh, whoa, look at that. There's a system up there I've never noticed before. Um, so yeah, I'm still picking them off.
What are some of your most proud first ascents? I have a couple here. Dog Party. Correct me if I'm wrong on some of these. Sexy Toodle. Sinbad's Hairy Banana. Is it Sexy Poodle or Sexy Toodle?
Poodle. Yeah.
Poodle. Okay, because you have two poodles, right? Or
yeah,
two dogs?
Well, I kind of split custody with my ex-wife, but yeah, so Sinbad was
Okay.
my first dog. I named a lot of routes after my dogs. My next dog was Billy, so there's like Strawbilly Tango and Sinbad Herbert, which actually has become pretty popular.
Yeah, I saw that one on Mountain Project. Yeah.
Yeah, that one got put up in I believe in late.
You're like, who do I have to talk to? Who's putting up my
No, I'd
routes?
just be surprised. I haven't told many people about that one, but Sexy Poodle is really, really good. It goes up the central wall.
Yeah, tell me about it.
The central wall is closed a lot of the year because of peregrine falcons. So it's kind of a dark, grungy area. It's in the rated X zone, which is some of the steepest part of the wall. It's actually where people will base jump and ski base off it in the wintertime because it's that steep. So
Holy shit! Whoa.
Yeah, it's nutty. Like they only get like 400 feet. But if it goes right, the chute opens. They get another 100 feet once they get away from the wall. So it's not a lot of space. And I've seen people do like double backflips before they pull their chute. It's pretty.
Oh
yeah.
Wow.
And you can find videos of that on YouTube. Shane McConkey, who was a big squaw skier, he kind of developed that for ski basing. And one year they did a festival out there and there was like 20 people doing it. And we just went out there and watched. It was pretty wild.
It'd be crazy if you were on the wall with the base jumpers like jumping behind you. You like just.
Yeah, I've been climbing up the leap, not underneath them, but like the chutes opening up when people jump, it's amazingly loud how you're like climbing. You go, whoa, what is that? Because it's like, it almost sounds like rock fall first. Like, whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, the people are still do it on the big winners. You know, we haven't had really a big winner in a couple of years. They've just been mediocre at best. But when there's a lot of snow, people will ski off the top. So it's pretty nutty.
That's wild.
It is wild.
Tell me about Sexy Poodle. Tell me more about that climb.
So it's over in the rated X area, and it goes up this. The first pitch is steep dikes, probably 11 plus 12A, and then it brings you into this base of this big arching crack. You get a bolt to start off with, and then it goes into really steep hands into like a squeezed chimney to chimney, and then you have to like traverse out sideways in this chimney into this big undercling on like super slick rock, and like the whole cliff just drops away. And it's nice to have like 3 number 2s and 3 3s and a 4, so it's pretty wild in there. And then you pull out of the arch at like 11 minus, and then the climbing is okay from there, but the first 2 pitches is spectacular, like the position and the exposure, and you know, it's like small wall, and it feels very remote over in that section. It's not the clean east wall, you know. It's kind of dark and foreboding, and it's pretty good. Like, and this is a line I've stared at for years and years and years, and it was just like finally like we walked up there and let's see what happens, and it happened. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's rad. So you made it up the first time? That was one of those routes?
Yeah, I mean, it took us, you know, the first pitch was a day. That was all bolted. And then the second pitch was a day. I didn't red point it. It was, It's pretty exciting. And the third pitch, like and I don't leave fixed ropes. Every time we come down, we just re-lead everything. And then, the third pitch was another day. And then we came back, and then I was able to red point it all the way to the top. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's badass.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's so hopefully I'll get some friends on it this year. It's in the closed area again right now because of the Peregrine. So hopefully this fall I'll get some friends on it. See if they can give me a rating. But yeah, I think it's 12A, 11C, 11 minus. I don't know. It's hard to rate things after you've been on them a few times, and they're so dirty at first too. But I'm not really known for the cleanest routes, but I have a secret weapon. My partner, he likes putting up routes. He comes equipped with goggles and brushes, so on follow, he just goes, man, it's pretty awesome.
A little leaf blower.
Yeah. I don't have one of those, but those things are pretty sweet. I don't have to talk about them, but yeah, he's my secret weapon. Dave, he's awesome. He's like super stoked just to go out there. We put up some good routes over the years. He moved to Strawberry during COVID, and he's a great guy and a good partner. I've had some great partners over the years for sure.
Tell me about Dog Party. I looked this up. This is also on Mountain Project. 12B stemming corner with like kind of off Radley fingers, it looks like. What was the precipice for that climb?
Well, I was working at the lodge doing construction, and this is on the formation called the Box. So it's kind of in the pinnacles and buttress areas to the west of the leap. There's all these like little crags over there. And I used to be way into roofs, like so I was working on a roof, but I love like climbing roofs, like because they're just exciting and they're safe because, you fall in the air. And there's this really beautiful roof that I was staring at on the Box. So we were doing metal roofing, and like I'm up on the roof just like staring up at the cliff going, why in the fuck am I working for $5 an hour? I want to be up there, right? So finally I hiked up there and figured out that roof had already been climbed, but then walked around the corner and there's this beautiful dihedral. So I come back with a buddy, actually one of the first guys I met from Humboldt. I had a handful of people I met from Humboldt who kind of followed me up here and lived here for a while. It was kind of cool. But so we went up there. It was a rainy day, and I was like, man, like let's just aid this thing and check it out. And I aided up it, and I was like, hanging in ladders and putting your fingers in there. Like, oh man, this is probably only like 10D. So, because you're hanging on gear, you're just like, you can't really, you're not pulling on stuff. You're just hanging on the gear.
Yeah.
So I came back and I tried leading it right away, and I just got my ass handed to me. But yeah, finally summited it. It really taught me a lot. It made me a really good stemming. The jamming spin with a lot of palming, opposing pressure. It's really beautiful. It overhangs probably 12 to 15 feet and like 65 feet. And it's this beautiful white corner. It's really good. And yeah, we put up a handful of routes near that. And there's a really good 12B sport climb to the right of it called Power Box. That's really good. That roof crack is awesome. It's kind of a scary, like 511 funky gear. So yeah, it's funny that cliff doesn't see much attention because in my biased opinion, I think Dog Party is one of the better cracks in all of the Tahoe area. Like it's, I mean, I was just fortunate enough to be the first one to climb it. Like I did nothing except climb it. Yeah.
No, that's cool. I mean, that's kind of how, yeah. I mean, single pitch stuff is a bit different than linking like, faces or putting a bunch of different cracks together on a huge wall. But yeah, it is interesting that it's all there, right? It's already there. It's just who stumbles upon it, who has the vision first.
Yeah. Like when I got here, so I got here early 90s, and like the crew before me who was putting up first ascents, like Jay Smith, Paul Crawford, who put a bunch of routes up in Red Rocks. You see their names all over the place. Paul's still climbing. He lives just down the hill from us. I still see him all the time. He's still Paul Crawford. Yeah, he might be fun to interview. He's old school. He's a badass. But him and Jay Smith were establishing a lot of stuff. They developed Caldome, but like they just had so much rock. They had the Lee Sugarloaf Phantom Spires, and they found Calaveras Dome. They had Cave Rock, Eagle. I mean, just there's so much rock around Tahoe. It's nutty. I mean, people are still finding crags all over the place. Especially in the Kirkwood area, where like that empath is and stuff. There's like so much rock out there. So those guys kind of like, before they finished with the leap, they moved on to all these other cliffs. And so then I moved in, and, I didn't start, I started putting up routes after a year or two, maybe. But like mostly like kind of on the smaller obscure stuff, like the box. And then, finally I started like venturing on to the bigger walls, and I'm pretty fortunate to find some pretty good lines.
Yeah, that's sick. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dog Party really caught my attention. And I mean, after your description of Sexy Poodle, I would be really rad to come out there and climb some of your lines with you.
Yeah. Hit me up. Let's do it.
Hell yeah. Let's talk about soloing. I want to kind of break down like the art of soloing, the risk management, and kind of your experience while you climb ropeless. Bob Gaines, I just interviewed him recently, and he said something that I really liked. His quote was, the real irony about soloing is that you can die directly as a result from not wanting to die. And to me, that's just a statement about fear, right? It's like when you're soloing, you have to be completely locked in, completely in control. And fear, it creeps in when kind of you start to become out of control, and then you lose that focus and you make mistakes and you can fall. So how do you balance that? How do you train your mental game? How do you stay in that zone of safety and control? And have you had any moments where that has broken while ropeless, and how have you regathered that control?
So yeah, I do love soloing. It's a huge part of me. I solo a lot. I love the freedom. I love the mileage. I like big days. I like just being able to go. I feel very fortunate to have the skill, climbing wise and mental wise, to be able to do it. It's now Lovers. I soloed before I came to the leap. I mean, when I moved up to, when I went to Humboldt, one of my first partners, he soloed. And so he was a mentor, he was soloing. So I soloed some of the easier stuff. So it was, like the magazines, and John Backer was a big thing. He picked me up hitchhiking once when I was 18 or 19 in Tuolumne.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, whoa. It was, very impressionable. It was in a lot of the climbing media, Dan Osman and Backer and Peter Croft. Like my first climbing magazine I ever bought had Peter Croft on the cover, and there's pictures of him soloing like Horse and Buggy and Joshua Tree and Tips in the Valley, which I have a picture of it down in my garage still from that first magazine. I found that magazine again, and it's just such a beautiful line. Like, look at that, right? Now, Lover's Leap, out of probably all the places I've ever soloed, it's probably like one of the best because all the feet are so good for the most part. It's not like you're getting dicey, glassy, polished slab. You're standing on a dike. As I've pushed it a little, I mean, I don't push it soloing. Some people might debate that with me. it's solid here, for the most part. The rock is really, really solid. The footholds are really good. And yeah, I've had some really big days where I just go. Now, when we first talked, I had mentioned I had a close call, and in some ways, I think soloing saved my life, which sounds crazy. So I was up on Flagpole Peak, which is a cliff off the Pacific Coast Trail up on Echo Summit. That's a really beautiful cliff, and it's a route I've soloed over the years, and it's a fun little morning jaunt. It's 10 miles up the road, about a mile and a half hike in, along on the Pacific Coast Trail, right next to Echo Lake. You hike up to the base. It's a 3-pitch 5/8 up Golden Granite to a summit where you're looking down on Echo Lakes on one side and Lake Tahoe on the other side, and then this really cool, like, mountaineering ridge back down to the lake to a jump in the lake and then back home. I can do it in a couple hours round trip. So I went up there end of October last year. I had a day of guiding in the afternoon. It was like a Saturday. Monday I was flying to Greece. We go meet my partners. We got run a trip with her. I was just fired up. Life's great. It's beautiful, beautiful fall sunny day. We get up there and I run into Dave Hatchett, who's kind of redeveloped that area. He lives over in like kind of the Truckee area, really good guy, really motivated. He's developed a lot of Tahoe, especially North Shore. I run into him with a partner, chat with them. I'm like, all right, well, I'll see you guys. So I cruise on up this little like 5-6 crack, hit this kind of ledge. And then from the ledge, you lie back up this section. Now, Dave and his partner at the base just uncoiled their rope and then walked away. I'm lie backing this section and the whole block comes on out. It's probably a 200-pound block. Now, if I was on a rope, I don't put gear in there anyways, because it's always been kind of like, oh, this is a chalked rock. You ain't putting gear in this. You just kind of boulder up and do it. And so whether I was on a rope or not, I wouldn't have gear, so I would have gone flying with the rock. Except if I was on a rope, I'm pretty sure the rock would have wrapped in my rope and pulled me off the ledge. I did a 180 in the air, cleared this block on the ground, stuck the ledge really hard. The rock went flying on down and landed on Dave's rope. They had walked away. It was an 80-meter rope, and I cut 2 feet of their rope on from the end. So,
wow.
So if I was with a partner, I would have killed my belayer with that rock and probably pulled myself off. So soloing saved my life. So it was nutty. It was super scary. I was rattled. Those guys are like, oh shit, they were fine. They were away from the wall. They asked me if I was okay. I'm like, yeah, I think so. But like, I don't want to down climb. Could you guys come on up and, give me your harness so I can wrap off or lower down? So they came on up. I jumped in the guy's harness. He lowered me. I kind of like checked myself out and I hiked out and I ended up guiding that day, which was, but I was pretty bruised.
You're just like staring off into space. You're like, hey, Petch.
Yeah, I think I like bruised my kidney or something. Like my back was really, really bad. And then I had to sit on an airplane for 28 hours a couple of days later.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So when the rock came off, you became fully detached from the wall at some point and then landed on a ledge. How far down? Or were you always connected to the wall at some point?
No, I came off with the block. So I'm like lie back and then it comes sliding out and I kind of push off the wall, kind of like throw the rock away and I go flying and I bam, and I cleared this. There was this boulder on the ledge. I cleared it just barely. And I jammed my knee pretty good. And then I landed kind of hard on my tailbone.
How far did you fall?
Um, I probably my feet my feet weren't that high off the ledge. I was probably about 6 or 7 feet, but I flew like 6 to 10 feet away from the wall, probably. It'd be interesting to go back up there and look at it. Like there's another block in there. There was 2 blocks that were like wedged in there, and there's still one left. So I want to go up there and see how solid that is.
What did that lesson teach you? Or what did that experience teach you?
Well, it taught me, yeah, it's just like rocks break. And I knock, and I'm doing a lot more banging on stuff, and it's in my head a lot more. And then when I heard about those loose blocks on corrugation yesterday, so someone posted on Mountain Project, a friend like sent me the link on Mountain Project, like, hey, there's a block that shifted me on corrugation corner. And like I got that in my head, like you think they're solid, but all of a sudden they're not, and like I had climbed that route 15 to 20 times.
Had you used those blocks as holds or
Oh
footsteps?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And like the last time I had done it, the kids from the Axis Fund followed Heidi and I up it, and um, he's way bigger guy than I am too, and he was reefing all over it, and his partner was right below him too. So like,
Wow.
Sometimes you just don't know, right? It's
Yeah.
just rocks come out.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times in Red Rock I've like done the test and the pounding, and it's decent. I'm a bigger dude. I'm like 210 like naked, so like probably 230 with the full rack and a rope and everything. And if I like commit my straight arm to like a lie back and like lift my feet up on a wall, I can't tell you how many times like I've had a big chunk of rock like shift on me, and I like put it back, and like can't imagine having an experience like that soloing, like you don't know what the hell you would do.
Yeah. No, it's the loose rock is real. And I mean, soloing or like on a rope, and like sometimes we're on the easier train, we're running it out. So I mean, it's in my head. I mean, it's affected me for sure. Has it stopped me from soloing? No. Just because it's soloing is part of me. It's me. It's what I do. Like, I don't ever really see myself stopping. I just.
Do you think about death?
Oh yeah.
In the mountains? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How have you conceptualized the prospect of dying in the mountains? And
well, I don't think it's going to happen, and I do, but I know there's always a potential, whether I'm on a rope or solo, or if I'm just scrambling and doing third class. I mean, I do a lot of things by myself. It's just like I just like getting up and going, and like I like being by myself in the mountains. I think it's very special. And again, I feel fortunate that I have the ability just to go and to be alone in these wild places. It's awesome, But I do like sharing them too, like I love being with my lady running around the mountains, and that's kind of a newer thing. So I'm really excited about this summer with her. She's a badass, and it's gonna be super fun. I also run around the mountains with Timmy O'Neill, and he's just a fucking hoot, and we have a blast. But like, it's sometimes when I tell people I have plans to go do solo, it's like, oh, can I come? And I was like, I don't like say no, but I don't like to encourage them to come, because like sometimes like is it a solo if you're with someone? Right. Even, it's duetting. Duetting's a little different than soloing. I don't know. I enjoy my alone time in the mountains. It's special.
how do you feel about soloing around other people, whether on adjacent routes or on the same route? What are the ethics there? What are the courtesies? And how do you feel about that topic?
Yeah, that's a touchy one. generally, I don't like to solo around people. It gets harder and harder because the sport's gotten more popular. When I do solo around people, I, I, I let them know I'm coming, and then I ask if I can pass, and I don't, I let people finish their leads and like pass while they're around. I think it's rude of. I mean, we get a lot of soloists here, and there's certain routes everybody needs to solo, like Bears Reach, because Dan Osmond and Alex Honnold soloed that in those videos. So everybody wants to solo that one, and that's actually one of my least favorite routes to solo. I think it's the most overrated climb at the Leap, but everybody wants to solo it because it's in the videos. And I see people like solo through people while they're climbing, and there's so many other routes. I've seen people solo through people when the route next to them that's rated the same or easier is open.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's when it becomes like a big ego thing. So I don't know, when you're soloing through a party, you're putting yourself at risk because they can drop something, they can fall on you, and you're putting them at risk because you can fall on them.
100%.
So now when I was in Red Rocks, I soloed Olive Oil a couple of times, and I mean that route's so popular, it's crazy. But there's nice ledges for the belays and stuff, and like, I went up and just hung out on a ledge and hung out with the person belay, and we just shot the shit until their partner was off belay, and then I shot up it really quick, and I just hang out and talk with people and keep it fun, and I don't want to be a dick because I don't like dicks, and
yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, no, I get it. I just I'm curious because I'm not a huge soloist. I've soloed a few times, but it's definitely not something I would consider myself like a soloist. But we've spoken to soloists on the show. We had Josh Arata on the show, and he had like a crazy soloist accident in Yosemite where he fell like 200 feet and miraculously survived. And like hit a ledge halfway down and landed right next to another party. And so it's like he could have hurt them. Now everybody's involved in this rescue. And now these people who saw you deck, like there's trauma there. So like you're taking so much risk on yourself, but also putting everybody else in this situation where they might have to either watch you die or like get into this crazy rescue scenario. And so you kind of like, it does involve everybody around you in a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah, like when I solo at the Leap, I either go really early in the mornings or my favorite time is late in the day. And most of the time I'm by myself. And my catalog of solos at the Leap is pretty big. So like I've done some big days where I've soloed from sunrise to dark just to see what I could do.
Wow.
And I didn't pass one person the whole day. Never came across anyone like, okay, there's people on that route, I can go do that, And it's like, for a while, I used to not even like to solo around people knowing people were watching me. Over the years, I don't care as much, because it makes my mind go somewhere else. All of a sudden I'm thinking about and still, like, if I'm on a solo, one of my harder things, I don't want anyone around. Like, I don't want it to have eyes on me. I don't want people taking pictures. I just, I want it to be a solo, right?
Yeah. What's the hardest you've soloed? What's what's your hardest solo that you've done?
Yeah, like low tens.
Low tens. And yeah. Serious business for sure.
But most of the soloing here is like 5'9" and under.
Yeah. And I think you I had this written down actually. It was a question to see if the horizontal dikes led to a more secure style of climbing that allowed for more like reasonable soloable routes. And it's cool that you kind of answered that question already. I would imagine that's like a huge benefit to soloing out there with just how secure you can feel.
And then what's also with the Dykes and Lover's Leap, like the amount of traffic we get here, it doesn't really get polished.
Mm.
Because people's things get polished when people's feet slip, right? And generally it's hard to slip off of dikes. Now there's like the start of the line, that's kind of gotten polished, that first move, because you're kind of like smearing at the first crux. That's a little polished. And Bear's Reach has kind of gotten polished because everyone climbs it. I mean, that sees on a weekend 20 to 30 people a day go up that.
Whoa, that is insane.
It is. And like right next to it, East Cracks, which I think is better climbing, we'll see a third amount of traffic as Bears Reach. Everybody wants it. I mean, Bears Reach is like a great route, don't get me wrong, but
it's like In-N-Out Burger. It's like, is it worth the line? No, but you got 50 people wrapped around the neighborhood to go get a fucking In-N-Out Burger. So we're humans, I guess. We're just gonna do what we're gonna do.
Yeah, or we're sheep.
Yeah, we all like to think we're not, but we're all sheep in some way, one or the other, or one way or another. What do you make of the movie Free Solo and the commercialization of such a pure, personal, and at times life-threatening art form? Do you feel like it's been a positive for new climbers, a net negative? Kind of like, where do you stand on its influence on new climbers?
Well, I mean, the Free Solo of El Cap is mind-numbing. I mean, what he did is just incredible, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
there's definitely no denying that.
And I mean, it's just like him soloing El Cap. It was built on previous people soloing, right? And you look back to John Backer. I mean, he was on like the Wild World of Sports, Saturday afternoon, Wild World of Sports, and there he is soloing, and doing like shaving ads soloing. So it's just kind of like, it's kind of just built upon it. Now, to think like how I just said, like when I solo, especially if it's something on one of my harder routes, I don't want eyes on me. I think it's crazy for him to be able to do that with cameras hanging with people right next to you.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's just on another level, obviously, several levels. And then, I mean, he had to probably approach them, and it's like, it's worked, he's made a good living off of it. And he loves what he's doing.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's like the general population. I think it's the easiest way for, I'd say, Gen Pop to like conceptualize the risks of climbing, right? It's like, there's no rope. It's like, it's so easy for someone to think about like what that might be like, because they're scared of heights. Like, what? No way. Like it's like way easier for someone to look at Alex Honnold free soloing El Cap and relate to that person than it is to that same person to like watch somebody. I mean, even Tommy Caldwell climbing the Dawn Wall, like general population is not going to have the same amount of connection with Dawn Wall versus they do with free solo, just because of the fact that there's no rope. And so it's probably why it's been so commercially popular. It's just because it reaches a wider audience in general.
Oh yeah. And then, I mean, you living in Vegas, I mean, you're hiking around the Red Rocks and you run into some people. Oh, you're climbing? You ever see that guy who free climbed?
Yeah.
El Cap? I mean, how often do you, especially in Vegas, because they know
it's all the time.
Like, yeah, it's all the time. And I thought the Dawn Wall was a much better movie.
I agree.
For me.
I agree. Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
It's interesting. I think climbing. I've run into this a lot recently, just with this podcast and everything. I'm like, the climbing community itself is really small, and if you're trying to think of like a business model, the market of climbing isn't really that great to get into. There's not a lot of us to begin with, and we're all very educated, very informed. We know what we want. We don't really like ads, and we don't really like to spend money. So it's like a really poor community to try to market and make a living off of.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That's interesting. Let's talk about a little bit more about kind of like linking your soloing and these big days, because I like one of the things you offer your clients is like the birthday pitches. Like, you're 30, you do 30 pitches. I think that's like a really cool thing that you have turned guiding into. Like, I think the guiding industry struggles with attracting clients in a way. It's like, I think a lot of people think guides are just for like beginner climbers, like single pitch scenarios. Like, I think there's room for improvement on general climbers' understanding of what we can use guides for. And that particular one, I think, is a really cool, easy way to get people psyched about hiring a guide and like going and doing something that's challenging for wherever you're at. Like, if you're 25 pitches in a day is probably more than most people have ever done. So talk to me about like how that has gone with yourself. How many pitches have you done in a day? What's your biggest day? And like, how has that translated to your clients, and how have they received it over time? I send professional recording equipment to every single guest to ensure that you get top tier audio and video quality, and those costs add up. Right now, the show is also completely ad-free, and I would love to keep it that way. So if you've been enjoying the Climbing Majority podcast, would like to help keep this podcast ad-free, and want to help me cover shipping costs, consider joining our Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, you can help support the show, and you'll get access to exclusive episodes. You can find the link in our show notes, or head to patreon.com/the Climbing Majority podcast. That's patreon.com/the Climbing Majority podcast.
Yeah. So I do birthday challenges as a guide, and it's super fun. It's big. It's and it's super rewarding to like be able to offer that to folks. I did one for a friend's son. We did 29 pitches, and his dad said it like totally boosted his esteem. He says he's still sore.
Yeah.
He said 2 days later he fully cramped up. But like, my knowledge of this area and climbing here for the 30 plus years, it's fun to give a gift to these people, and being able to like, not many people can do that or be at an area like, because I thought like, I've spent some time at Red Rocks the last couple of years where I guide a little bit, and I think I'm like, I don't know if I'd be able to do what I do here or there, because like this place is so stacked, so close together, and I also know it so well. I'll climb something, and like when I did this one the other day, I had a 100-meter row. And then I use micro tractions, so if they fall, it keeps the stretch out. But I can climb 330 feet in one pitch, and then lower them down in 3 pitches, and they can climb back up. So like on that 29 pitch day, I might be only climbing 20 of those pitches, but I'm also doing them in one long single pitch. So if you like count rope pitches, they're pretty short. But it's gained popularity. I just booked another one today, and the guy's turning 30.
Cool.
And he wants to climb way more than 30. He's like, I charge, I do my day rate plus $10 a pitch.
Okay.
He's like, I want to give you as much money as possible. I'm like, all right,
yeah. Hell yeah.
Oh, that's rad, right? Like, to have someone so fired up, and it's a challenge for me too, because like
logistically,
we like to be a challenge. Mm-hmm. And physically too. Mm-hmm. But the amount of rope work is what's really tiring, just the belaying and coiling. I do prep the day before. I stash water and food in places, so we're not climbing with heavy packs. I set up a wrap line on the east wall, so once we get over the east wall, we can wrap down and we don't have to walk. So that, those little things help. Last year I did 250 birthdays. So we did 50 pitches.
Yeah. Wait,
Um,
250 pitch birthdays?
yeah. Not back to back, but
Okay.
I did it for two different people.
Yeah.
This now in a couple of weeks, I do a 40 on a Thursday and a 25 on a Friday. So I'm gonna get in good shape.
Wow.
25 sounds like a lot, but it's most of that climbing is like 5'7" and under, like 5'7", 5'6", and 5'8" here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, you can cover a lot of ground really quick. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot of face climbing too.
Mm-hmm.
Because Lover's Leap, it's a lot of trad climbing, but you're face climbing mostly. So, and you're just paddling up dikes. And again, I'm really comfortable on this rock, living here for, I live in here as long as I have. And then personally, so in 2020, before 2020, I'd go out and solo and I'd maybe get like 25 or 27 pitches was my most I did. And then in 2020, I set out a goal and I said I wanted to do 71. And I went out the day before, set up a wrap rope, and on pitch 63, I was wrapping down and going over a roof. I had COVID hair. I just had a lightweight harness and a gree-gree. I wrap over this rope, the roof, and my hair gets stuck in the gree-gree, and I'm just dangling in space.
Oh.
It was brutal. And like I was on a skinny rope. I'm spinning around in space. Normally on my harness, I've got a couple of Prussics, I got a knife. I had nothing. I just had my gree-gree and my chalk bag.
And your hair stuck in a gree-gree, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm in space. I just went over a roof. I can't touch the wall. There's no one around.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So like, even though I had a gree-gree, the rope was skinny, so I couldn't let go. I put a knot in the gree-gree because it was still slipping, and I'm like getting caught in there.
Shit.
And I'm panicking a little bit. And I'm like, the first thing I think about it, like, I'll put a knot and then like stand on the knot. I'm like, oh, no, I need to get the weight above it. So I start taking off my chalk bag with one hand. I'm like, I'll make a Prussic out of my chalk bag because I have like some super tape. And one of the few benefits of getting old, I guess your hair pulls out a little easier. And I hear it start fucking coming out, and I just rip the whole clump out.
Just start calling you Patch.
No, that's not new.
I had to try.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've actually got the clump of hair like tacked to my garage down below. I still look at it. So
wow.
Now when I do those days, I bring a knife and my Prussics or my third hands or whatever. So I got on down. So yeah, I just had 63 or maybe it was like 65. I wanted to do 71 that day because that was the year I was born. So I ended up finishing it off, but yeah, it definitely hurt. So then the following year, I did it for 4 years in a row. So that year was 71. The following year, I did 103. Next year, I did 108. And then 2 years ago, I did 112. I didn't do it last year. I was having toe problems and it was super, super hot. And now there's some repeats. I down climb some stuff, but like, yeah, it's whatever, it's fun. It's a nice push.
It's 112 free soloed pitches with the rope to use to get around, right?
Well, yeah. So on the 112 that day, my buddy Timmy came out and we simul climbed 2 routes. He came on out just to join me.
Okay.
Though I think that was slower than if I had soloed, but it was cool just to
Yeah.
have a buddy and a companion to come on out. It was fun because he's such a riot. He's nonstop. And he's a good friend. Um, I just use the rope on the east wall to get down. I don't get to the east wall until I'm already at like pitch 50 or something. But like I'll go up one climb and then I'll down climb something else. And again, I got the place really dialed. I can just kind of get in this flow. Um, and I like doing it right around the solstice, which is getting bad. I want to climb with headlamps. I mean, I do climb with headlamps sometimes, but like I just start off like at sunrise and then climb until I throw in the towel. Um, but also at solstice, like one year it was really, really hot and it was kind of a beat down. So that's kind of a crux is the heat because the leap goes in the sun around 1 and then you're in the sun the rest of the day. When I did that, my last big day, it was cool and that made a huge difference.
Wow. That is a tremendous amount of climbing.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. It's silly, whatever, big deal.
No, I mean, if we're, we all want to climb as much as we can. And that is one way to get an absolute wild amount of climbing in a small amount of time. So that's really cool. And that's awesome that you're sharing it with people and sharing that the vision and the logistics and like just opening people's mind to like how much is possible in a given amount of time. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I feel very fortunate I'm able to do that for folks. It's rewarding to see how stoked they are. And like, like one person who hired me, his wife paid for it. And she's like, instead of presents, we want experiences. And this is an experience,
Yeah.
something you won't ever forget.
Oh yeah. Well, nice. I've got, I basically don't have much left, on my roster here. We're pushing 2.5 hours. I know we had mentioned, one other topic. I want to kind of just leave it up to you, whether it's something you want to dive into for a short amount of time. And this is just your, battle with alcohol and kind of how it, shaped a portion of your life. Again, totally optional. I just wanted to give you the platform to speak about it if that's something you're interested in, because you had mentioned it in our meet and greet. Otherwise, happy to kind of round it off here. Leave that kind of up to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge part of me and my life. Yeah, I was an alcoholic. I don't really believe in like I'm still an alcoholic. Like, I was sick, I got better. I can be around alcohol. I have plenty of friends who drink a lot. It doesn't bother me. I don't miss it. I don't need it. But at a point I did. I drank a lot. One of my first climbing partners who I met in Humboldt, who was also my boss painting, he was an alcoholic. It was always like 6-pack at work, 6-pack when we go climbing. And then sooner or later, I was bringing the 6-pack. We each have our 6-pack. And then I became a bartender in the restaurant business, which is like you're serving drinks, people are buying you drinks. I obviously have an addictive personality. That's, maybe I gave up my alcohol and jumped into my climbing even heavier, like gave up my alcoholism and picked up climbing addiction, I mean, I've always loved climbing. But like I definitely took it to the next level with my big days of soloing, but I'm a high energy person and I like to expend that energy, and maybe the alcohol not help me sit still because it gave me something to do is just numb my senses. Yeah, I drank a lot. It ruined my marriage. That's why
What
that was,
about, well, like the, I mean, like I would imagine drinking alcohol starts as a habit and then it kind of like, whether you realize it or not, it becomes a problem at a certain point and then you realize it's a problem. What was that kind of progression for you like? When did you know it was a problem? And like hindsight, looking back, when did the problem really start?
I knew I had a problem. I knew I was an alcoholic. but I was, I was a functioning alcoholic. But then it started affecting my marriage and family life. I do have a daughter, 16-year-old, who's awesome. We have a great relationship, but I feel really bad.
What's her name?
That Rocky.
Rocky. Nice.
Yeah. She's my rock star. She's awesome. She's a really good kid, super sweet, super smart, fun. She actually came out to Red Rocks when I was out there. I flew her out there and we went and saw Tyler the Creator, and then we climbed the next day. And I'm like, Tyler the Creator, who's that? That was really good.
Full dad mode. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I was struggling. I was trying to cut back, and cutting back was actually harder than just quitting. I was passing out at night. I was having blackouts. I was killing. I'd be dead right now if I didn't quit drinking. Just
health wise, or because of the choices you were making?
Yeah, just health wise. Just I was poisoning myself with, like if I didn't work that day, I'd start drinking 10:30 or 11, and I'd drink beers all the way until evening, and then I'd have a couple of whiskeys, and then maybe have a couple glasses of wine until I was out.
Just pass out. Yeah. Well, did hard drugs ever come into the equation during this time? I think that level of kind of consumption can lead, I would say, especially in the restaurant industry and the bar scene, to like cocaine's like a really easy kind of drug to get into in that space. Like, did that have any space in your life or no?
No, I mean,
Nice.
Yeah. Never did hard drugs. I mean, I sampled, but no, like no one does hard drugs here. Marijuana, which when I quit alcohol, I smoked pot on occasion, but I told myself I wasn't gonna like all of a sudden become a huge stoner. So like I maybe have a hit of weed a few times a year now. Like, and just like I'm just sober as can be, for the most part. Every once in a while, like after a big day in the mountains, like hiking out from the Incredible Hulk, maybe I'll have a little taste, but like just the smallest. And yeah. So yeah, it was a dark time. I'm glad. I feel really bad that I let myself get that bad. I know people who have problems, and all I can be is supportive. It's just something you need to be able to do on your own and quit. Like I'm never judgmental. I'm just there to love my friends and give them support. And if they want to talk about it, I have some friends who will talk to me because they know I was a big drinker and now I'm sober, living a super healthy life. In some ways, I'm the healthiest I've ever been, and I'm, in my 50s now, and like I can have these big, massive days. I get up and go. I'm not getting up all hungover and dehydrated. So yeah, it's an easy one to fall down the hole. Like a lot of outdoor people. No, I mean, you finish climbing, you go to the campfires and you drink, and it's fun for a while, but like it like you said, it's habitual, and then it can become more. And yeah, I feel bad that I let it take over. I'm very grateful that I was smart. Unfortunately, it was a little late. I feel bad that I put my ex-wife through that and my daughter. But we make mistakes and we just have to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you had mentioned, you've mentioned your ex-wife kind of several times so far. I would imagine this kind of like period of your life was kind of the precipice for the separation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But like as soon as she told me she wanted a separate and probably a divorce, I haven't had a drink since. But like she was over it. She's like, I'm out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the day I became sober. And like, I hit bottom. You got to hit bottom, and that was my bottom. Yeah, she was out. But yeah. We have an awesome kid. Like I said, she's real, you know, I can be more happy with how great my Rocky is and what a sweet, loving, smart teenager. She's 16, just started driving, and she's funny. She just ran for like student board at her school, and she put her face over a picture of Rocky Balboa. And it's like, vote for Rocky, I'll fight for you. It was awesome.
That's awesome. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you must be proud.
Yeah. I am. And like, is, you know, she looks you in the eye. She's engaging. She's funny. She's quick witted. It's pretty cool.
That's
and,
cool.
She's motivated. So,
what did to someone listening to your story here and potentially having some issues of their own with alcohol or maybe a substance that's inspired by your story, what advice would you have for them in terms of getting a grasp on a way to move forward?
Yeah, well, your life is only going to be better if you leave that stuff in so many ways, health wise, mental wise. Being a climber, like you know, when we'd go out cragging, I'd bring some beers, you know, and even when I used to solo, I'd have a couple beers in me, and I was like, oh man, will I be able to, like, you know, like the beers took the edge off, and I'd be more scared. But like, you know, I climb way better, way stronger, way more solid. I'm way more focused soloing. The guy I'm climbing Caledon tomorrow, I mean, he told me after I stopped drinking, he was almost going to stop climbing with me because he didn't like climbing with me because the way I drank, you know. It's like, whoa, really? Fuck, I wish he had told me, you know. Not that he, you know, it wasn't his responsibility. I put that all on myself. But it was bad. It was bad. And I'm embarrassed. But I'm embarrassed. I ruined sections of my life, but coming out of it, I've made my life better, you know, and I just feel bad that I hurt my ex-wife and my child, you know.
Yeah, I'm sorry you went through that, and yeah, it's we all go through our own struggles, and yeah, I think it's cool that you know taking the opportunity kind of to share with everybody. I think it makes us all stronger to be vulnerable and to share these stories. So you know, I appreciate that. Well, you know, to make sure you know we don't end it on that note, what's got you psyched in the future? What's on Petch's menu for the next couple years? What's got you inspired?
Well, what's really cool is said this my lady Heidi Wirtz, who's a badass climber. I actually have known her since I was 18. She went to Humboldt also. I actually took her climbing for her first time, like, you know, it's a pickup line, right? Hey, let's go climbing.
For sure. Pickup line, but also it's like a checklist. It's like, do you climb?
Yeah.
Or will you climb?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, she was a cute hippie chick, and, you know, 18, and I was a little 18-year-old hippie dude climber. Like, hey, yeah, you want to go climbing? So I took her climbing, put her on shoes that were mine, that were too big. Put her on something too hard. She didn't like it. She ended up like leaving Humboldt, moving to Colorado to be a ski bum, and she tried climbing again, and she started off with ice climbing, and then she started climbing, and then she became one of the top women climbers in the world, had the speed record on El Cap for a while for women.
Damn.
And
wow.
Yeah, I've always had a crush on her. I mean, I was married, but I always still kind of had a crush on Heidi, but like, you know, not that I would never, you know, she was always there in my head. Mm-hmm. And then I ran into her actually in Red Rocks in 95. I'm like, well, you're climbing. That's rad. And then her dad lived down the hill from Strawberry. And so she'd come when she'd go visit her dad, either like going to Yosemite or back. You know, she lived in Yosemite for a while. She's, you know, she was on Team North Face, just a badass. So we'd climb together. She'd stop on through. And then, yeah, just finally last summer, I was just like, hey, Heidi, we should date. She's like, whoa. Yeah. She's like, that's awkward. So now we're dating, living together, and what's funny is my ex-wife's name is Heidi and her name is Heidi, so I must have a thing for Heidis.
Oh, interesting. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
so
Oh, that's
yeah.
romantic. That's kind of a cool story.
Yeah. So
Congratulations.
yeah,
That's
I'm super
awesome, man.
stoked on like, she's a really accomplished guide. I mean, she guided the Diamond last summer. She just guided for 5 days in Indian Creek, ran a women's retreat in Indian Creek. Now she's heading back to Boulder and some SPIs, and then she's coming back for the summer to work. We'll work together, and then she runs international trips. I've been going on with her, so a really good team, and it's super fun, and we just have a blast together, and yeah, so it's kind of bitching.
That's awesome, man. I'm excited for you. It sounds like
yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you've definitely turned the full page and are stepping into kind of a second life, which is rad. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, it is rad. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, Petch, I mean, thank you so much for coming and sitting down with me. And I know so many people that are like, they saw my story with the box and they're like, so psyched for this one! Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation.
Really? That's
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think is this your first podcast, by the way?
It is.
Okay, cool. Has anybody reached out to you before?
Yeah, a couple of people have mentioned things, but they never turned into anything. So
okay, cool. Well, yeah, I think that
hopefully I was entertaining enough for your audience.
You're gonna have just floods of invites now. It's just gonna break the seal. But no, it's really cool. I think a big precipice of this story, or of this podcast rather, is the voices of the majority, right? It's, people who don't get their fair share of the limelight, people whose stories aren't told, and it's really cool to be able to sit down and tell your story. And I know like I said, there's a bunch of people that have heard a lot about you, have run into you at Lover's Leap or other places, and yeah, just really psyched to have this chance to share that with everybody.
Oh, cool, fun, yeah. Hopefully they'll enjoy it, and yeah, I enjoyed talking with you, and yeah, come out to the Leap. Let's I'll put you on some of my choss piles.
Honestly, man, I really look forward to it. I try to get up to Reno for work every now and then, and yeah, Lover's Leap is right there. I've got a bunch of stuff I'd like to do, and Dog Police and what is it, Sexy Poodle are now on the top of the list. So
awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.